I would like to call the Parks and Natural Resources Subcommittee of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board to order. Today is Tuesday, May the 17th, and it is 7:30 p.m. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Lash?
Here.
Ms. Hibbinger?
Here.
Ms. McWhinney? Excuse me. Mr. Ratliff?
Here.
Mr. Rohr?
Here.
We'll go around and introduce yourself because we do have a new person. Angela McWhinney is taking Julie German's place. So this is Angela.
I work for Delaware School.
Okay.
Ward City Council.
I'm Dee Avenger. I'm delegate at large.
I am Allison Lash, and I've been on the board for a little over a year. What ward am I?
The chair.
I'm the chairperson of the board, but I don't know what ward I am.
No, I'm the vice chair.
I'm Lucas, and I
Yes.
worked with Angie at Delaware City Schools, so we know each other already.
I'm Ted Miller, Parks and Natural Resources Director.
Stacy Davenport, Park Superintendent.
And this is the clerk, Elaine McCloskey,
Thank you.
and I'm Linda Matthews, the customer service liaison for the Public Works Department.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome aboard. All right, we will be electing a chairperson and a vice chairperson for this particular subcommittee. I would entertain a motion for someone to be the chairperson. And we're kind of not going to do Allison since she's the full board chair. We'd like it to be someone different because once we place the third ward person on a committee, after that person is appointed, Allison will go to both meetings.
Lucky Allison.
So come on.
That was going to be my nomination. That's awesome.
Come on. Dee Dee, you're the vice chair. You can do this.
I nominate Dee Dee.
I second.
Dee Dee, are you okay with that?
Okay.
We'll help you
You'll
along.
help me do this?
Yes. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Lash?
Yes.
Ms. Hibbinger?
Yes.
Ms. McWhinney?
Yes.
Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Ratliff?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
All right. How about a nomination for the vice chairperson?
I nominate Mr. Ratliff.
Do I have a second?
Second. I second.
All right. Lucas, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Lash?
Yes.
Ms. McWhinney?
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Hibbinger?
Yes.
All right. Dee Dee, I'll continue tonight, and then you can jump in the next meeting. All right?
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, I don't see any public, so I guess we can skip public comments. So we'll go on to number 4, discussion of goals and topics for this subcommittee. Stacy and Ted, I think, are going to cover this.
So this is our first time at it. We kind of went through this a little bit the last one, but I think this one will be a little easier because we have a lot more topics with this committee. So I think the handout Linda has kind of identifies some of the topics for discussion of the Parks and Natural Resources, and not necessarily for tonight, but like kind of as this committee moves along. Some of those items include the first one, the mission statement. I don't know when that was visited last time, but
I don't think anybody was on
this board.
committee or before when we discussed that.
And then the bike trail master plan. Did anyone get a chance to look at that since our last meeting and have any comments that they wanted to let us know of? Because I'll give you an update on that at least anyway. Now we are meeting with we're going to meet with the consultant here real soon to have them update that and get a revised draft out and before it's actually finalized and get your recommendation. So probably by the next meeting we'll have that updated, I would think, by next month. Do we want to get into these, all these now, some of these now, or?
Well, I think they can just look at them and then
Okay.
they're just some stuff that we thought of. Certainly, this is not all that we can
Yeah.
talk about. So, kind of take a look at them and see what you want to tackle first. A lot of this stuff, we're going to toss at the other group too, because it kind of overlaps. And then at the full board, then we can kind of bring all the thoughts from both of the committees back together and discuss it at the full meeting too.
Well, and one of the things we can do here tonight too is if you're looking at this, is there anything that jumps off the page to you guys that you want to have a little bit more discussion on?
I have a couple things.
Or add to the
Surprise. Should we just jump in?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think so.
So a couple things. One, you guys have on here shelter rental rates and process.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, are the rental rates up for discussion, or what was the issue with that? Anything? I thought they were set.
Well, we set, if you remember correctly, we set the one for veterans
Yep.
part. But what we want to do is review all our rates,
Okay.
compare them. We'll come back to you guys with some compared to other municipalities,
Okay.
see where our rates are compared to those, see if the committee wants to increase our rates or decrease our rates, I guess. But
Okay.
so that's why that's on there. Like Linda had mentioned, a lot of the things too that we're putting in here, we have to cover with both boards. It's just a fine line. So we're doing it with the YMCA, Recreation, I guess, Rec Committee, as well as the Parks Committee, because they sort of overlap and intertwine together. So
So does that mean any final decisions? I mean, anything that we would have to say, like, yes, take this to city council or something, that we'll just do that in the large board meeting?
Correct.
So we're just talking about it, and then we'll talk about it, the large one, and decide the next steps?
correct.
Okay.
And when you talk about the process, part of that is because the YMCA is the one that does the actual rentals for us.
Yeah, and I was going to bring something up about that, because there was an email that went around recently about switching that to an online process, and the Y was a little hesitant of doing that. Do you guys know anything more about that, or what the issue is?
That's one of the things we need to talk about. Putting it online and having the form available and being able to submit it is good online. But you could submit it, Dee Dee could submit it, and I could submit it for the same shelter, the same day, same time. So then you got to go back and look and see who submitted it first, who made their payment first. And what we like to do is Chris Nelson at the Y, he'll get the application and then he'll, contact the person, and if the shelter that they want is taken, then he tries to offer them alternative shelters. So we think that the personal touch is something that we want to keep,
Yeah, absolutely.
but I don't think submitting it online is bad. But then they get submitted online, he gets it, then he makes the personal contact, and then they work it out, and then they get the payment.
And there's been discussion, there's programs out there that can help alleviate some of the issues that would be caused by that. So there's a lot of things to look into before that moves forward.
Can we make it so when you apply and you pay that it then shows up as rented for that time so that nobody else applied?
Right.
I just feel like there's a lot of, so this is just my feedback that I've heard about several different things with, and I apologize now, this is off topic because this technically I guess would fall under the Y, but it seems like a lot of their registration processes, there's like multiple steps and people are getting like frustrated and lost. And I personally haven't had this, so I can't speak to it. I just know from feedback I've heard. And I know it was brought up in one of the meetings previously because it was like baseball registrations where it was like you could sign up online, but then you have to bring the paperwork to the Y anyway. So I don't know, like that was on there. I mean, again, that's something that can be talked about in their subcommittee and then in the larger group, but I just would like to revisit that somewhat and get a better understanding if we're all confused in hearing feedback of it then what that is. And then when that email came out about signing up for this and it was half online, half not, then it triggered that again.
I think one of the things on the process of the shelter rentals is that people plan events. They want to know if this day is available,
Yeah.
and if that information can be relayed online at least, so that someone can see if this day is available and then send their money in and have
Yeah,
like
there's
3
a
days
calendar
to
on
get
there
a
or
deposit in or something, and then it'll be reserved and permanent on the calendar.
Where do all those funds go when people rent? When I pay for a rental, who gets that money?
The Y gets it first, then I send them a bill at the end of the month and they pay the city back for all the shelter rentals.
Okay.
So the city gets the actual shelter rental money, the field rental money, like if we had a softball tournament at one of the parks, we would get that money too.
Okay.
If you rent the room in the Hilburn room in the Mingo complex, the Y gets that. I think that's the only one that they get
The swimming pool.
in the swimming pool.
And as far as the rentals go, wouldn't there be a better way of, let's say, I went online and I wanted this shelter, I could make a deposit right away instead of waiting?
That might be an option too, with your card, yeah.
Yeah.
These are all things that we need to iron out and
Yeah.
talk about and launch it.
These are
I
exactly
just
the
think
kind of
these are
comments
some
we
of the,
need.
yeah, I think there's a lot of processes like that seem simple to us maybe because we're more involved with it, but then it's like the feedback we always hear from everybody is they don't know where to go, it's not easy to find anything. I start online, then I have to call. So I was just trying to figure that out for myself too, just to be able to communicate that back out, but
Well, right now, I don't believe there's a calendar that you can look at online to find out if a shelter is available.
and I know part of that too is that it's a lot of, it's, someone has to do that. So it's like fitting that into somebody's already role and responsibility. So I understand that that's difficult. It just seems like there has to be an easier way to do some of this process stuff.
Topics for discussion. You said there was another one that you were looking at, Allison?
No, it's not on here. I don't want to
Okay.
dominate the conversation, but
Why not?
I had another question. Anybody else? So can you explain the difference? And I feel like, Ted, this is where you came from, preservation parks.
Mhm.
So what exactly, can you explain this to me? They are their own group are they a nonprofit? Who are they exactly? So I understand this.
They are a 50, well, they're basically another county entity, like a county government, but they're separate from the county government. So like you have the Delaware County government, you have the city of Delaware, and then Preservation Parks is its own park district government.
Okay. So they don't do anything with the city parks, correct?
No, not necessarily, but that's one of the things we want to try to work on is fostering some of those partnerships.
Okay.
Like one that will probably be coming up fairly soon is on Pollock Road is the Logan property. The Preservation Parks has bought that, but it's surrounded by the city of Delaware.
Okay.
So, working with them to get access and partnering on programming and various things.
So the reason I brought that up is because they do a lot of great things like summer activities and stuff for children. So they have like the letterbox program
Yep.
and dinosaur tracks and all this stuff that you can then do for like the summer with your kids, which made me start thinking that the city of Delaware, obviously we have a lot of great parks that I feel like are underutilized that people just don't know about. So I didn't know if there's has there been any discussion, or that's something that I guess I would challenge this group to maybe think about is of having some sort of a campaign around our parks to get people more involved where we highlight a certain park or we have certain activities at different parks. So I guess it's a two-part question, is thinking through like what kind of things we could do for that. And then two, how would that even be communicated and executed? So has there ever been any discussion about this? No.
As far as the
Yeah.
past, I'll jump in there. I know, even when I was at Preservation Parks, that one of the things that we were working on was like an urban nature programming, where it was downtown, some type of nature programming where a naturalist came in and offered a program downtown, so it was easily accessible to a lot of the city residents. So I think that's one item worth pursuing, and you kind of start out small and hopefully it would grow. If it was successful, it would definitely keep growing. The other thing is I've seen some of these, I don't know if it's exactly what you're talking about, but like in Detroit, they have they actually built a nature center right downtown right along the river, but it's kind of more of a natural programming area that is directly in the city. And so I think that's kind of what you're talking about a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so just for example, and I know this is like a totally different scale because it's like metro parks, but how there's like winter walks with metro parks, or this, like even the preservation parks are doing like the dinosaur trail. But I just feel like there are so many parks, especially like Blue Limestone, which I feel like people forget about. Then there's Mingo. We have all these great parks. I'm kind of leaving out like the little neighborhood parks out of this, like our major parks. And it's such an asset to the city, and I feel like we need to highlight them more, and bring people to them more. But then it seems like there's got to be like a draw, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, of course we have the Halloween party at Mingo, but again, which I'm sure you guys discussed, that seems like a Y event. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. I'm just saying, like, keeps going around and around. I'm like, man, how can we get people to really be excited and know about what great parks, especially with the splash pad opening, if this art park stuff all goes through. Like, we've got a lot of great areas that I feel like we need to highlight somehow.
Well, and that's sort of what we had mentioned earlier, about that fine line that's between the Parks Committee and the Rec Committee. And a lot of the things that you're talking about tonight are more of a programming standpoint, not so much a park standpoint, but at the same time, it leans a little bit towards the parks because it will be taking place in the parks. But, we had reached out to preservation parks to do some educational opportunities out to the wetlands park. And those are things that we're going to be reaching out again to see if we can get stuff like that going on. But, it's up to us for Ted and I, and I'll speak for Ted, I guess, for a second, but, for us to reach out to preservation parks and open up that line of communication again to see if they want to come in and start to program more of our parks and do things like that as well as the YMCA. We've got the Delaware Run goes right through Blue Limestone. Perfect opportunity to get in there and do some kind of programming. Maybe it's that the YMCA reaches out to a naturalist and, I don't know, tadpole for today or whatever they want to call it, and
Creaking.
So those are all opportunities, and those are things that, we'll make sure that we bring up to the YMCA and see if there's something there that we can pursue.
Yeah, and I think that that's something, though, that this board should be utilized for, is brainstorming some ideas that we can take to the Y and say, hey, here are our ideas of what we want to do in highlighting these parks. Is it possible, and can you help us with this? And and then figure out if it's possible.
And I'm agreeing with you,
Yeah.
but the issue right now is just figuring out, where does that go? Does it go under the parks category, or does it fall under the recreation category?
But you'll be able to bring this up when we meet as a full board, and we're hoping that this kind of discussion.
Right. I mean, the point of these subcommittees is
full
to
board.
discuss that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, like, we could come up with just some ideas that are shared, that we share either at the bigger board meeting or then you guys take to the Y group. But I think that that's where we need to start, is kind of looking at some of these parks and thinking of like, hey, are there any good ideas about that?
Right. One place where that comes to mind when you mention that is the bike master plan. As that gets finalized, there's an educational aspect of that, and maybe latching onto that to start one of these campaigns or something to educate on share roads or something like that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that comes to mind when also is like some type of Instagram campaign, where get the parks more recognition, and especially in pictures, sending out pictures and getting a good following on that. I think is the social media is a huge avenue that we haven't really explored too much yet.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
And our Shade Tree Commission participates with First Friday. They set up a table, hand out literature, hand out tree seedlings. This board could participate and get some of the word out like you're talking about.
Well, and that's the
different
thing too that I noticed at the Arts Festival this weekend is like Preservation Parks had a booth there that they were passing out stuff that they were doing. And I thought, oh, maybe we should have one of those. I just think that there's so much stuff going on, and it's like I'm talking about highlighting stuff that would highlight the parks more than anything, because I feel like a lot of times, to Stacy's point, we do rely on the Y for some of that, and I'm saying like, I think it would be nice for us to push more of the parks, not the Y. You know what I'm saying? Like I know that's a fine line, and that they are working with us, and that's however that gets worked out, but I just think that the parks do not get enough recognition of what all we have when there's a lot of great things in the city. So that's what I have for that.
I think something that kind of relates to that, I think it's the city of Worthington. They do something that's called Party in the Parks. I can't remember if it's like a competition or if it's like a rotation throughout the summer. But they'll kind of highlight a park, and kind of the whole community or neighborhood. They'll come out and they'll throw like a cookout or have ice cream and balloons and stuff like that, just to get families out there and get people familiar with the parks and kind of those areas, and just kind of see what's available there. So
Well, and that's a good idea, and that's so the Y does that, but it's in the Y parking lot. So I don't know if that's something like we could do something similar to that, but have it in one of our actual parks. And I don't know, again, if that's the Y hosting it or if that's the city on behalf, that piece I don't know.
yeah.
But they do something similar to that too, and that's a great idea. But that's what I'm saying. That's my feedback is we should pull people to parks more.
Well, we use our parks, the Now Watershed Festival, which is in June, and that is sponsored by the city. So that highlights,
Just the rain barrel stuff.
yeah,
Mhm.
that uses Mingo Park.
Yeah.
There's an organization, Alpha Industries, that does the duck races and 5K in Mingo. Granted, most of these are at Mingo, but when I was growing up, we had summer playground programs at Blue Limestone,
Oh yeah.
and that was where they hired leaders, and kids would go there during the day and participate in sports and crafts, and then they would, go on outings and stuff like that. So that would highlight a park. That would be
And they still do the fishing release thing?
Yes.
Well, and then even it's Mingo Park again, but the canoe launch is getting ready, is
Yeah.
being built. So like if there was something, a canoe day, you know what I mean? Like any of that type of stuff that just, and the other part of that though is, to your point about like Instagram and stuff, is that I don't feel like, I follow the city city Facebook page and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, we've talked about that in one of the meetings before, like how often we could ever put anything on there or, get information out about parks if we started, just to highlight some of this stuff more. But
Do you think an Instagram page would be, is be popular?
it probably would take a while to catch on, but
Yeah.
hashtag Delaware Parks.
Yeah. Well, and there's always the dog park opening. It'd be great,
Yeah.
just to put those photos on there and get the following going. But
You could do a summer campaign of like, show us like a picture in the park, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if we can give away prizes, but you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
get people to show them, if you do the hashtag, whatever, then it all goes onto that one page and then you can see all the different stuff
Right.
going on in the parks. I just think that the city does not get enough with the whole relationship now with the Y and the city. And this has been, I know you guys probably talked about it in the Y stuff, and it always comes up. It just feels like a lot of times it all goes to the Y.
Okay.
And the city is not getting recognition for all the great assets that they have or some of the recreational stuff that they're putting on. I know that's a different topic for a different committee, but I just think that with this subcommittee, we were focusing on the parks and what we can do to really highlight the parks. Then we should start looking at stuff that we can do to get the word out there, whether it's an event or Instagram or something. I just think that there needs to be more focus on the parks in Delaware, especially with all the different stuff we have and the splash pad coming and all that. There's a lot to be proud of with those parks, and I feel like they should be seen more.
I agree.
Anybody else?
Are we back to the list here? Is that where?
Yeah, we can go back to the list.
Or if you have anything to add to the list too.
Alcohol sales at Hidden Valley, what does that mean? I guess.
One of the items at Hidden Valley Golf Course, looking at trying to increase sales, memberships, and use of that course. One of the items is introducing alcohol sales down there to the park. It's an idea that's been thrown out there, and kind of want to get some feedback from the board and see what their thoughts are on that.
I thought they were starting that this season, so it hasn't started.
Well,
No.
it went to council once and they nixed it.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Is that 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And now the topic has come back up because they're looking at ways to generate more money. And if you play on that course, you see the cans in the trash cans all the time anyway. So it's there. That's just a way to actually capitalize on what's already going on.
Makes sense.
So I think it'll
Isn't
come
that the
back.
whole fun part of golf?
How many golf courses
Exactly.
don't sell alcohol?
Yeah.
No, I don't know any.
I don't either.
See, and I think that's something we will, when the board reconvenes, that we have something that this board recommends maybe to council and moves forward with.
I have a question about something that's not really on this list. Who does the signs in the city? For instance, the high school has brand new tennis courts and a ball diamond and a soccer field, lacrosse field. And we've had a lot of buses get lost because they don't know where the tennis courts are, but they're calling it a park. But I was, wanting to know, is there a way that we could say, welcome to Pacer Park? Is that the city? Is that the school district?
It's on school property, correct?
I think so, but as I was examining and walking through, it looks like everything around there is privately owned. There's houses,
One up at Orchard Heights, you're talking about?
Lincoln, off of Lincoln, it goes to a dead end.
The athletic director's been in touch with city staff, particularly the planning department, and looking at a way of getting that, getting some kind of signage out at the road that will tell them that the baseball fields and the tennis courts are back there. I know that's in the works. We talked about it last week in our wayfinding signage. So I don't know where it's at, but I do know that the city schools has reached out to the planning department.
Anybody else?
What is the, where have we landed on the renaming, the gentleman who was here at the full board meeting asking about renaming the park? We said we would talk about it in the subcommittee. Have you guys had any more discussions about it, or?
Under policies and procedures, that's one of the ones, the next board meeting, we're gonna have a draft naming policy that we're gonna
Okay.
present to the board and get your comments on that and before we move forward with that. But yeah, just so we have a policy in place as this comes up in the future.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just wait.
Yes.
Just respond to that.
And we'll send that out probably with the board packet early so you have a chance to review it before the next board meeting.
And then what is the update on this art garden? So is it moving forward as
Okay.
is, or what? I haven't read through all this yet.
Another meeting scheduled with Roxy and
Okay.
Tom Coleman.
So how does that work though? Because they make.
I actually can't come to it.
Yeah, I saw your email. We'll give
So
you an
does
update.
the
once we get-
association make are they the ones who make all the decisions based on this area? Because the school board owns it, and then
They
what's
won't
the
make,
city's involvement in it?
they won't make all the decisions on it.
Okay.
It's gonna be a partnership. But the school is, I think they're just talking about like a $1 lease a year or something like that for this park. And It's very preliminary at this point. This is the initial stages. They came and we asked them to present a program statement, identifying what they would intend to use this for and what specific elements they'd like to see out there. And it mainly is a passive park. But this is what they've come back with. So the next step is we'll probably produce some concept plans in-house, and that will be something else we'll present to the board next month. And working with them to I think they had a fairly aggressive schedule to move this forward, which I'm not sure is going to happen, but we're going to work with them and develop this and see if we can come to an agreement on how this should work and everything. One of the things that on that sheet you guys have that we are not in complete agreement with right now is just that we will
Maintain.
commit to maintaining this at this point, because we don't even know what's going to go in it yet at this point, and what kind of level of maintenance that's going to involve. So our goal is just to kind of keep working with them, because I think it could be a really good project. We just have to.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of feedback about it, that people are excited about
don't
it just
think any-
because of the location and then the idea of it being like an art type of garden stuff. I've heard a lot of good feedback about it,
Yeah.
so I was curious what the city's involvement with it is.
Yeah, we wanted to.
Legal things have been ironed out yet. That's the problem.
Right, but we wanted to get the information out to you just so you're aware of it, and we'll just keep as things are known, we'll just keep feeding them to you. Yeah, one thing Roxanne was here at the earlier meeting. I kind of forgot to tell her we have kind of 2 board meetings tonight, so she kind of explained a little bit more, but we can have her at the next meeting to explain a little more, especially as we get to that stage of it. But one of the things also is the stream, that the Delaware Run that runs underneath that park is, I think the consensus is going to be to open up that, to restore that stream to its natural state and get rid of the culvert that's underneath the park, partly because it's failing, I think, at this point, and then also just to make it a more natural setting.
So do they, just out of curiosity, they are funding this through donations and grants and have they started any of that yet? Do they have money for this yet or no?
No, part of that's part of the initial process, the planning process, is getting that program statement, and we're going to kind of work with them, get them a concept plan, and then once they have something they can show potential donors and where they want to go with this, they will start seeing how much money they can raise.
I think they're interested in pursuing grants as well, aren't they?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it seems really cool.
Have any other ideas been kicked around for uses of the park other than this art garden?
No, they brought this idea to Tom, and we just kind of been working with them as because it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
The one lady, I can't remember her name, but she's on the other subcommittee. But she was kind of lamenting losing that as
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
athletic space. So
But that's also, but the other piece of that is that school right there is turning into administrative buildings, right? So isn't some of that pulled though from those fields, the kids that go to that particular school? Or
yeah, well, I think she
Well,
was
it's-
referring to after extracurricular type things, like her son plays lacrosse. I think she was just wanting to have that still available as a
Yeah.
athletic field, as opposed to this would do it as it would not be available as athletics. It would be
And do we have
All
enough
access,
other
yep,
spots?
that's-
Are there enough other places that have that carryover though?
That was
I
one
mean-
thing she said, that they needed to work through that with the schools and other entities, the city, to see if the uses for that could be moved to other places.
Now, right now, Willis does use it as we walk over with the kids. They get to go, play and have a recess over there. But that's usually just a special treat, but, that's when it's used now, but pretty soon no longer.
I think she said next
17.
fall, 17,
So
would be
how-
when they quit using it for school
Schools,
functions.
correct.
Yeah. But does the school own it? Who owns it? Worked out between the two?
Yes.
The school district does own it.
There used to be an elementary school there.
I think it sounds cool, but that's probably an issue if it's displacing people with that stuff.
Any
that's
other
gonna be
comments?
one of the legal issues is the city, before the city can get involved, there has to be an agreement of some sort, since it's not
Yeah.
city property.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Any other comments? Do we want to move on? Okay, we'll go on to, believe staff comments is next.
Just a few other things we wanted to kind of make you aware of, since it's up on the screen right now, is Glen Ross Park. We're there's money allocated to for some improvements out there, and I think it's $62,000, and we're going to apply for a NatureWorks grant for about. We have a quote for $42,000 to put a landscape buffer behind some of the residents that are adjacent to the park now. So the NatureWorks grant's a 75-25 grant. So basically, if we have a $42,000 project out there, I think it came to about $10,000 that would come out of our allocation for this. So we're going to submit that June 1st and see if we can get that grant to kind of leverage that money and do a few more things out there. Just kind of want to make you aware, I'll have the grant that's due June 1st, so at the next board meeting, I'll have a copy of that. The other thing is the Valley Side Drive. Some of you are probably familiar with this. I want to just kind of give you, and this is a very preliminary stages right now. It's in the planning stages, and just looking at the across this new drive that would go in. It's on Lexington Boulevard to the east, or to the north, I'm sorry.
That's the fire station.
And the main reason this has kind of come up is for safety. It's going to increase emergency response times, and help alleviate some traffic concerns out there. But yep, I'm sorry.
Decrease, I think.
Or decrease, yeah, decrease some of the traffic tie-ups. And the other thing it's coming to you guys also is it crosses Delaware Run, which is kind of brought up some concerns about keeping that natural area intact. And there's some other Linda brings up these. This is the kind of the proposed structure that would kind of go across it. So we're looking at keeping the stream intact as much as possible, and also keeping some of those animal highways intact also. But we don't know the final design or the exact alignment at this point, but just kind of throwing some information out so you're aware of it if you get any questions or have any comments on it. Have you guys seen this at all or heard of this? Okay, good. Well, at least we got you updated a little bit. Unfortunately, this is all the information we have at this point, but more to come.
I don't really know what this is.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to go back to the other map?
All right. Are you familiar with Richwood Bank?
Where?
Richwood Bank on Wade Street? That's Richwood. This is Carson Farms.
Okay,
South Road is up here.
okay,
So this is going to go from the new fire station across. The city owns a property here, and then this will come across. Then this is Delaware Crossing
okay,
out there, Delaware Crossing.
okay.
And so it's there, and that's the Oakside Vet, Rodman Eagle Funeral Home from Richwood Bank.
It'll be parallel to how.
Okay.
Is this the thing that they keep advertising, that there's like all these different public meetings that people can come to
It's part of
about this? Okay.
Part of it.
moving Delaware forward.
I just remember hearing.
Yeah,
about
it's one of the proposed traffic improvements in the city.
Where will this run again?
It'll run north-south, but it'll connect 36 and 37 East William Central, right?
Across from the firehouse is Smith Clinic. You know where Smith Clinic is?
So, yeah.
I didn't even think about it. I should have brought a larger area.
Wait a minute, that's by
That's
my
the fire
house.
station. This is Smith Clinic.
Yeah.
It's going to join 36, 37, where the,
So where would the road run through at 37?
It's
right
gonna come-
now there's like a house right there straight
Right,
across.
there's like the twin single house.
City
across-
owns, city owns
That's
those.
gonna go
It's going to go
that
right through
house.
there.
Gotcha.
City bought those several years ago in anticipation of this road.
Gotcha. Okay. That'd be nice.
The area that doesn't really have a name?
So Lexington Boulevard is essentially get extended.
Yes.
It's near Chatham?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will
It's just
basically
right.
take Lexington.
That area is
Straight
just
across.
west of Chatham. It'll go right behind some of the houses at the west end of Chatham.
Well, I live off Cambridge, which is right off of there,
Yeah.
so I know. Now I know. Okay. It's okay.
Any other questions about those? I think we're ready to move on to member comments. Anybody have anything more? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
It is 8:10 and we are adjourned.